I am Ann Smith, a member of the League of Women Voters of Volusia County, and I will be moderating tonight's forum. The views expressed tonight are those of the candidates, not the Lake Helen Villa, nor the League of Women Voters of Volusia County. Our goal is to provide an avenue where citizens can gather information and ask questions to help them make an informed decision at the polls. We are doing this as a public service. We expect all candidates to conduct themselves with decorum when answering questions and giving their opening and closing comments. This is an opportunity to promote his or herself, not attack or demean an opponent. Being respectful does make a difference. Before we begin, please silence your cell phones and just a few details, because you know, if your phone goes off and a candidate's in the middle of a 1-minute comment, it can throw them off, and that's not fair. So make sure they're off, please, or at least on silent. Any recording of tonight's event must be shown and or heard in its entirety. A statement at the beginning of the recording must state that the views and ideas expressed are those of the candidates, not the League of Women Voters of Volusia County or Lake Helen Villa. And no portion of the forum may be used as a political advertisement. I'll begin by explaining the format. There will be a 1-minute opening comment and a 1.5-minute closing comment by each of the candidates. The order for responding to questions has been determined by a random pulling of numbers, and were determined just a few minutes ago up here with all 4 candidates. We will ask questions developed earlier by the League, citizen questions that came in through email, which none did, and questions submitted from the audience in writing and screened for duplication, relevance, and balance by members of the League of Women Voters of Volusia County. We have Claudia Roth, Linda Cuthbert, and Suzy Rudolph. Candidates will have up to 1 minute to answer each question, and that's up to 1 minute, and I will alternate the order of who responds first. At the end of a minute, the timer, Nancy Nusbaum, will hold up the stop sign, and we ask candidates that you finish your thought and very quickly complete your answer. Ken Nusbaum and Suzanne Rubenstein, who are in the back, are members of the League as well, and are assisting with the distribution and collection of cards and pencils or pens. Please raise your hand if you would like to get a card to submit a question, and then they will also pick it up and bring it to the screener's table. Be sure, as I said earlier, that any question you ask is applicable to all 4 candidates. One final word to our candidates. Our timer will hold up a sign that you have 30 seconds left when answering each question, and a stop sign when your time is up. The same procedure will be used for both opening comments and closing comments. And we are taping tonight's forum because what we will do is we will put it on the League of Women Voters website. It'll be a YouTube link, and Mr. Wickham will be have a link on the Lake Helen Villa website where it will take you to the actual filming of tonight's. Are there any questions from the candidates? No. We're good?
Yes.
All right, then let's begin. opening statements, and Mr. Burton is number 1. And you'll need to turn that on.
Good evening, can you hear me? Can you still hear me? No? Okay. Hi, my name is Vernon Burton. I'm the mayor of the city of Lake Helen. A little about my background. I spent 15 years in law enforcement, and I was retired, disability, line of duty, and was raising 4 kids, so I had to go into business. And I spent 15 years in business. I moved out here in 2020. My mother built the house that I live in, and my family's been in Lake Helen for nearly 100 years. And sitting on the board that I've sat on for nearly 20 years, I've served with 11 commissioners, 6 city administrators, 4 city clerks, and only 1 public works. That was Ricky Mullins. And I've served with 4 mayors. So I've been around for a little while, and I think one of the things that I've learned by being in business as long as I was is that as long as you hire the right people, you get the right results. When I was in law enforcement, as long as you recruit the right people, you get the right results. And as long as I've been in business or in this city, as long as you stop on time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Donato.
Good evening. I want to thank each of you for coming out tonight. I think this is a pretty important event for everyone to have the time to meet and listen to the candidates who will be your elected officials come November. I am the incumbent currently for Zone 3. In the last 2 years, I have brought money back to the city that could have been lost. I've had more town halls than I think most in the last 2 years. I have brought grant monies in for people. So I've been working really hard for the citizens. In fact, I work every day for the citizens. Just a little bit of a background. I come from a corporate background. I have cost analysis. I've dealt with $50,000, $60,000 or $1 million budgets. I missed the 32nd one.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for being here. I'm Sean Abshire. I'm running for Lake Helen City Commission Zone 3. I've been here over 30 years. I was born and raised here. My family's been over here for over 50 years. I'm raising my son here in Lake Helen. My grandfather served in Zone 3 in the 1970s. I've been involved in our city since I was 16 in some way. I've served on the Parks and Recreation Board, the PLDRC, and presently on the Historic Preservation Board. I've volunteered for city events. I've attended and spoken at city commission meetings for the last 17 years or listened to them online. I've stayed engaged and with what the unheard or underrepresented citizens of Lake Helen want and desire. I'm running because I want to give a voice to those unheard citizens in our gym, and because I think it's time for the next generation of citizens to step up and start running for office. And Zone 3 has not had an election in over a decade, and only 3 in 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us to be here to present our views on Lake Helen. My name is Roger Eckert. I'm currently Commissioner for Zone 2 and the Vice Mayor. I'm a Navy veteran, went into boot camp when the Vietnam War was still going on, was going through A school and got orders to a ship off the coast of Vietnam when the president said no more, and they changed my orders. I spent the rest of my career in the Mediterranean. After the Navy, with the training I had through damage control, I went and applied for the fire department, started with the Lake Helen Volunteer Fire Department, went through training and became a career firefighter with about 40 years total service. Retired from the fire service and was talking with my wife, getting a little bored, so I signed up.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Donato, you get the first question first. And the question is, what suggestions do you have to improve the city's water system to improve water quality?
Well, I think that the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we have the correct pipes laid, that we have the correct piping laid in the city. I know that the pipes are old. I know that our Public Works Department has been working on it. I know there's been a lot of complaints this last 2 weeks, but we've got to start with piping. Some of them are, and also let me add this, one of my major concerns is PFAS, which is a forever chemical that has been identified within the city of Lake Helen. So I do believe that our Public Works Director is taking a look at that. Our water system is just old, and it's gonna take a lot of money to go ahead and repair all of it.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire, the same question.
Well, Commissioner Donato's not wrong that the piping does need to be replaced, that we need to look into that, but that's going to cost money, and money the city doesn't presently have, and the only way to get those funds would be through grants or alternative revenue streams, and raising taxes isn't an option. If we raise taxes anymore, some citizens are going to be taxed out of Lake Helen. So the only way to do that would be to look at some more commercial growth, do it smart though, make sure that we aren't going to overgrow the city, that we're not going to overburden the city, that we're not going to create more traffic problems. And we also need to collaborate with other cities around us to find out what they're doing with their older drinking water infrastructure and what ideas they have as well.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert.
Lake Helen's water system is old. It does need to be upgraded. I think the report that we got back said it would be about $8 or $10 million to bring everything up to par. That was a few years ago. It's probably more than that now. We do have a state loan that started evaluating the system and getting a couple improvements, which included replacing our meters, which had, most of them didn't work and people were just paying basic prices, and we didn't know how much water they were actually using. So that was the first improvement, and the rest of them, we do have old pipes. There are still asbestos related pipes that need to be replaced, and all that's in the program to be done, and we need to continue working on it.
Thank you. Mr. Burton?
Our water system, if I repeat everything everybody said, the water system is old. We need, one thing they did when we upgraded our system, when we became, the water tower went away. It's still there as an iconic symbol of Lake Helen, but we do have a very up-to-date and modern water treatment system. Since our last city public works director was the one that was managing it, and once he retired, we hired another company that was USA Water. Last couple of weeks, we had some issues that they did not perform as they should have. There was no threat to the citizens, but the water may have not been as the level that we would have liked it to. But the fact that we do have to maintain a certain level of consistency so that the water is safe. The water is safe, it may not be desirable, but how we make that change, that's going to be up to our city to be able to raise the funds or grants.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire, this next question, you are the first to respond. What are your city budget priorities?
My city budget priorities?
Yes.
Well, our infrastructure is old and crumbling, just like the last question that was asked about our drinking water. Our parks, they need upgraded. We need better city events, public events. We don't have funding for those, adequate funding for those to make those what they could be. Roads are a big thing, drinking water a big thing, stormwater. Stormwater we need to look at. We have citizens that are flooding and we don't have the funds for those either. Again, grants are the only way we're gonna be able to get some of those things done unless we find other alternative sources of revenue. I don't think anybody in this room wants their taxes raised anymore.
I'm sorry. Thank you. The same question, Mr. Eckert. City budget priorities.
Yes, it is.
One of our important things that we have to do is maintain a balanced budget. With the priorities of it is to make sure that our bills get paid so that we can operate to serve the citizens. And after that, we try to make improvements as best we can. We have different companies that are out looking for grants for us and coming up with different ways to finance the different projects to make improvements around town. And our biggest problem we have with our budget is that we are a residential community and we don't have a large commercial tax base to rely on. And I'm still pushing to reduce the residential commitment and try to get more businesses in the town.
Thank you. Mr. Burton, same question. What are your city budget priorities?
Our city priorities are somewhat locked in a box because we have a certain number of people that are being able to fund our city revenue, a number of houses that are not being taxed because of disabilities or whatever. So we need to think outside the box how we can increase our revenue stream. When we increase our revenue stream, we then have the ability to do different things. With the revenue stream that we have now and what we're pretty much stuck with, we are limited. So we cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. We have to look into grants, we have to look into ways that we can increase our revenue. If it means annexing in resources that can be on the outside of our town, everybody likes our little community, I do too, but I also say that we need to have more money to be able to consider what we're going to do with our budget.
Thank you. Ms. Donato, same question.
I'll start off with // the budget. I have a huge problem with our budget. I bring it up in our commissioners' meetings. We've got to stop duplicating services. We need to take a look at every line item. Every time I look at bills paid, I have voted no because I'm not going to vote yes on monies that are being spent that I don't even really understand what they're about. And if I don't understand what it's about, then I'm not gonna vote yes. We are looking into grants. I'm working with people, with the county, with grants. We need to be piggybacking with other cities if at all possible. So when it comes to the budget, and I'm also very strong about looking at payroll, from payroll all the way down. Our employees need to be paid at a good price. Sorry.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert, you get this question first. Do you believe the city charter needs to be updated, and what specific updates would you suggest?
Yes, our charter needs to be updated. It doesn't need to be 100% replaced, which had been suggested in the past, but there are sections of it that do need to be upgraded. The important section is the one that deals with our election process. About 6 or 8 years ago, there was a referendum that came to be voted on to change the charter. The citizens voted down. it was turned over to some of the wording in those sections still have the 1 year requirement, and that's where a lot of the current confusion is coming through during our elections. And those need to be updated. There's other sections that could also be updated to change the workload.
Thank you. Mr. Burton, your question?
One of the biggest impediments of our city election process is that we have to have an election every year. And even when there are county elections that would pay for our elections, we're having an election now. I think we're the only city in the county that's having an election. So we could do a better job in making ourselves, we talked about saving funds, being able to have competent people who are working within our government to be able to allow us to make better and smarter decisions. We had to hire a new city administrator a couple of years ago. Last year, it cost us $44,000 when the past administrator had to leave, and another $35,000 to pick his replacement, and we're about to do the same thing all over again. So we need to be better and smarter with how we govern and how we use our facilities in terms of making better choices.
Thank you. Ms. Donato, same question.
I've been on the commission for 2 years, and for 2 years, all I've heard is that we need to update the charter. The charter was brought before us by a citizen within the last 2 years who wanted to work on updating the charter. That didn't fly. I don't understand why. However, one thing I think that the commission should be doing is having workshops so we can take a look at what's in the charter, what needs to be changed, do we change it? And not only that, our ordinances, some of those are outdated. So we need to be working on the rules, the policies, and the procedures, which is our position as commissioners to take care of changing the policies and procedures in this town.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire?
Yes, the charter needs to be updated. We still have a charter that was never even voted in by the citizens. That document is still governing us. It needs to be cleaned up for conflicting language. We should establish a charter review board of citizens to allow them to make the necessary changes and bring it before the commission, and allow each individual item to be voted on, not all one clumped in, so the whole thing fails if somebody doesn't agree with one part of it.
All right. The next question will be Mr. Burton. You answer first. What makes you think you will make a good community servant?
My experience in this community, the last 20 odd years, I had didn't mention, but I was on every city planning board, historic board, Parks and Rec board, and I've been involved with the city for the last 20 years. What makes me think I could be a better? Well, I guess the easiest way to look at it, when you elect better people, you get better results. I'm not putting myself better than anyone, but I think I have a track record that says I've been making some decisions that have helped the city. I started this commission with no city administrator, no plans to how we're going to do our city hall. It was about to be closed, we thought. So we managed to deal with that. Not only that, we've also come through the worst natural hurricane that hit this city, and we've got through that.
Thank you, Ms. Donato.
What makes me think that I could be a good commissioner is I think that I've already been a good commissioner. I've worked hard, not just for people for Zone 3, but for Lake Helen at large, and I work every day. But my background is what brings me to the table with the corporate experience that I have. I have experience in working with the management capacities of gaining knowledge and specialty. I've gone through future political training. I have analysis training behind me, budget training behind me. I worked for the closing of the banks in Oklahoma City, which was a nightmare. I actually worked for the controller, and I had to go through a complete and full background check. So my background's clean. I've got a lot of knowledge in bookkeeping and accounting.
Thank you, Mr. Abshire.
I just have a desire to serve. My family has served this community for over 50 years. My grandfather, like I said in my opening, served in this seat. I think I could make a good public servant because I don't view myself as a politician, even though my family has served. Just somebody who wants to give back to my community. This community's been there for my family for as long as they've been here, and it's finally time for me to give back to that community in this way. I'll listen to every citizen that wants to speak with me if I get elected, even those that don't completely agree with me all the time and that I have disagreements with. And I love Lake Helen. I just love Lake Helen.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert.
This will kind of continue what I was making for my opening statement. Being in the Navy, when we went to different ports, we got with the community, with the village people and communities, and we did community projects in the Navy. So we were serving the communities where we went to ports at. When I got in the fire service, we did nothing but community service. We came up with programs to benefit to help the citizens, educational programs, service programs, and help people with housing problems, along with our running calls and running medicals and fire calls and stuff. We always stayed we always did up and beyond. When we went to a fire call, we stayed to help start the process for the people to help them recover from the fire. When they had a medical call, we'd come back and follow up with them. Even in the Boy Scouts, we served, and I want to continue that.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Donato. Lake Helen has seen 4 city administrators in just 7 years. What do you believe is driving this high turnover? And what would you do as a commissioner to improve stability and create a healthier working relationship between the commission and the administration?
I've only been here for 1 turnover with a commissioner, so it's very difficult for me to speak to the other 4 or 5 that left. I've heard the rumors. I don't know if it's true or not, so I can't actually speak to it. What I was told, and I think the whole commission was told, as well as staff, is that our commissioner, or our CA right now, who has a lot of experience and a lot of years in this field, has decided to retire. He's an intelligent man. I'm sure that if that's what he's decided to do, then I'm in agreement with him. If he stayed, then he would go ahead and do his business the way he's been doing it. But he's made that choice to retire. I think as far as having a CA involved is great. You get more information from the people.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
I will. Lake Helen has seen 4 city administrators in just 7 years. What do you believe is driving this high turnover? And what would you do as a commissioner to improve stability and create a healthier working relationship between the commission and the administration?
Well, like you said, 4 city administrators in 7 years is a lot, and quite a few other cities have high turnovers of their city administrators also. Oftentimes, it seems like it's fractures within the community or not as much unity as there should be, and it drives some of our city administrators away. There have been complaints over the years on some city commissions that some city commissioners micromanage the administrator, constantly barrage the city administrator, some have been accused of making it a hostile work environment at times for some city administrators. We need to make sure that the commission as a whole supports its city administrator, but also holds it accountable when it does make mistakes.
Mr. Eckert?
I don't believe 4 city administrators in 7 years is a high turnover rate. Most city managers average across the United States is a 5-year employment. So 4 and 7 years really isn't that bad. When you consider one of our neighboring cities that went through 4 to 6 in 2 years. Our current city administrator is probably, from everything I've seen and heard, the best administrator that we've had so far. Our first one that I know of retired. The other ones had problems and ended up having to quit. But if we ever get a good city administrator like our current one again that's willing to stay on and stay with us, I'm all for it. Our current one, when he applied, said that he would be retiring when his wife retired. And I applaud him for standing by his wife.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Burton?
First city administrator we have is Don Fundell, and I worked with him. One of the things that I wanted to know when I first came here, what's the difference between the city manager and the city administrator? The one thing he was very clear about is that the city manager basically runs the city, if there's a strong mayor. The city administrator serves at the pleasure of the commission. The commission is who makes the motion. A commissioner must second a motion, and 3 commissioners must vote on it. So we have to look at ourselves as the commissioners. As I said, I've worked with every and probably hired more than anyone. One of the things that I think we need to do is that when our city administrators leave, to get them to give us an exit interview. Let them point fingers, name names, and say why they are not going to stay in the city. The other thing that everything we have is a year. Every year we have an election. Every time we have an election, the bullseye always gets put on the city administrator.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire, this question is first for you. What suggestions do you have for the police chief to improve the traffic flow on Privet Avenue?
To improve the traffic flow on Pravat Avenue.
Pravat, excuse me.
I am going to give an unpopular answer. I don't know if there is anything that can be done because of all of the development that surrounds us. Everybody uses the city of Lake Helen as a thoroughfare to get to Deltona and DeLand. Pravat is one of those roads that people use to get to Deltona or DeLand. I am not sure there is an answer.
Thank you. Mr. Eckert?
I'm kind of perplexed on the street that they chose to have a traffic problem on. I think we have more of a traffic problem on Ohio and Lakeview Street than we do Pravat. But as far as improving traffic on Pravat, I mean, we've got the lowest speed limit except for the half-a-mile stretch in Deltona out of all of Lake Helen Steam Road and Pravat. The only thing we do is try to convince the county to allow us to lower the speed limit on the north side of the town from the city limits to where to the current speed limit, and that would kind of make it the same all the way through. about the best I can do on that one.
Mr. Burton.
From 44th to Kicklighter, there are at least 3 different speed limits between 45, 50, 40. The speed limits vary. One of the things that we were able to at one point keep the speed limit to a minimum, and somewhat we had a police officer who was very active in making sure that he made his ticket quotas. Those ticket quotas now don't really come to the revenue of the city, but it's something that we need to consider. One of the things that we don't have is a street study of that grade road to be able to determine what a survey would look like. We haven't done a survey. We complain a lot, but then this question is actually mixed in with Ivy Hahn, and I say that just because there's a school that gets out of school a lot, but we don't have that survey.
All right, Ms. Donato.
Well, I kind of agree with everybody here at the table. That is a strange street. I think the best thing that could probably happen is that the chief of police post an officer, especially during rush hour, in the mornings when children are going to school. Many times you don't see an officer out there. Now, let me add on that I am seeing more officers out on Burton. In fact, I see 2 sometimes heading in 2 different directions. I think writing more tickets might help. I don't know how many warnings are going out. I do look at how many tickets, but I don't know if that's specific to Pravat. It could be Ohio. I agree with Commissioner Eckert. Ohio in Lakeview is horrible. In fact, we have a problem right here in the villas with racing around, and not following the speed limit.
Thank you very much. Mr. Eckert, the next question you get to answer first. With development pressures at the I-4 corridor, how should Lake Helen balance growth with preserving its historic small town character?
That's a bit of a tough one. The only way we can preserve our hometown look is to control what goes in our section of the I-4 corridor. There's going to be improvements coming in at 472 that is going to pull traffic through Lake Helen. There's nothing we can do about it. It's in the county or Deland or Orange City that are handling those areas. Our areas, Orange Camp and I-4, up to the Summit Bridge, and hopefully, if we can get Super Memorial in, a little bit of that section. The ideas for those areas are that we're under control is mostly mixed use there at the I-4 to be able to have some commercial with residential mixed in.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
The governor didn't do us a favor when they passed in the legislation Live Local. Live Local basically says that city administrators or city government has little to say about if there is going to be, because there's a deficiency of affordable housing. I don't mean low income. So when the Automall went south because of whatever, Hurley sold the idea that if we could get 358 units into that I-4, which would have been the Automall, we could get it. He sold it as that. And there's nothing we can do about that. Now, what that allows us to do is also it expanded our tax base, but now that tax base can now be somewhere utilized to be able to create another avenue where we can use the revenue sources to benefit the city as opposed to it being just going for the builders.
Thank you. Ms. Donato?
One thing too that the state has done has instituted SB 180. That's a Senate bill where actually it takes the home rule away from the commissioners, staff, in order to be able to build and make our own calls on how we want the city to move forward. I personally think that we should be involved looking at that. There's a lot of cities, small town cities that are getting on board with lawsuits. We need to have control of our city. The home rule should apply to every small town. As far as building goes, I'm all for mixed residential, commercial, if it's done in a way that's similar to maybe Winter Garden, Lake Mary, beautiful areas there. This town, it could be such a beautiful town with very little money actually for the parks.
Thank you. Mr. Abshire?
I agree a little bit with everybody at the table with what they said. Years ago, Lake Helen had the opportunity to annex in what is now Victoria Park and some other areas over by Daytona State College. And at the time, they didn't want to do so because Lake Helen didn't want to grow. Well, now DeLand, Deltona has some of these areas, and we're still suffering the consequences from those with the traffic without reaping any of the benefits. In order to bring in more revenue to the city, like I said earlier, commercial development would be one of those avenues. We just have to do it smart and strategic, and there are some areas that are still unincorporated Volusia that could be annexed into the city where we could designate to put commercial in those areas where they wouldn't impact the inner core of the city and disrupt traffic even more than there already is.
Thank you. All right, this next question sort of piggybacks on a couple of things that have been said. Do you think Lake Helen should bring in business, corporate revenue? And if so, what would that look like for each of you? Be specific. And the question, Mr. Burton, sorry.
We definitely have to increase our revenue stream, and one of the things that we can do, we've had this mantra is that we don't want to grow. Every time when I first ran for the city commission, the only thing I was asked, are you for growth or no growth? And I had to come up with an idea of smart growth, because people in our city did not want to grow. Now we've outgrown our ability to be able to afford the things that we need. So we do need to come up with some corporate. Some of the things that we have is a lot of property that's on the outside that has that can be annexed in. And there's a lot of industries that can be on the annexed in property that may still be able to keep our downtown looking like downtown and looking like the kind of city that we like without having to have the congestion of businesses that are being cluttered. So we have to look, again, outside of the box. As long as we keep looking in the box, the only thing we're going to see is the bottom, and it's not getting any bigger.
All right, thank you. Ms. Donato?
In regards to bringing in corporate businesses, I view that as large companies. I think that would possibly work on Pravat. I'd hate to see it go into any areas in the downtown areas near the park. I think that area should be family oriented. Or maybe go out into some of the peripheral areas in the city. But to take it downtown, I just think would be absolutely wrong for this town. We would be nothing more than just concrete, basically, and asphalt. And I don't think that's what the people want. And we can do it wisely, and we could do it with the monies that we get from grants.
Mr. Abshire?
I agree with Commissioner Donato about not putting it the corporate in the downtown. It could work on areas like Pravat, or like I was talking about, annexing some of the other county areas in and designate that for corporate. What I would like to see our downtown look like eventually is smaller family-owned shops and boutiques. We already have multiple hairdressers, a few more little family-owned restaurants and pharmacies and doctor's offices, small family-owned things in the downtown, corporate more on the outskirts of Lake Helen.
Mr. Eckert?
1992, I ran for commissioner of Zone 2. I ran on the principle of annexing the area. It was Arvida that was developing, but annexing the gardens and all that area out there between I-4 and Martin Luther King. I lost the election because the citizens didn't want that area annexed in. Now they're wishing that they did. Our only recourse currently is to redesignate. I mean, our most street that could be best commercialized is Pravat. Allowing the people that own the property from Lakeview all the way up to 44 annexed in, or if they're already in Lake Helen, to develop those into commercial properties. Big box stores are not going to work inside Lake Helen.
I'm sorry, I apologize. All right, I'm looking at the time because of the length of time it takes for questions to be answered and then the closing comments. And I know there's another function tonight. So this is the last question before closing comments. And Ms. Donato, you would be the first to answer. If elected, what would be your highest priority? And explain that, please.
My highest priority is stormwater right now. I'm currently on the subcommittee. It's the Stormwater and Flooding Storm Committee. We meet once a month, and it's bringing all 16 cities within Volusia County to work together, see how we can help each other. I believe that I've got the experience. I've had the experience for 2 years in Lake Helen, but I've got 5 decades of being in the political arena. This isn't just something that I decided to do 2 years ago. I have experience, like I said, in budgeting, and to me that's crucial on how we manage our budget for the citizens' sake. So I believe I'm the best choice. I'm already there, I know what I'm doing, and I'm working on projects right now that need to be completed.
Mr. Abshire, your highest priority if elected.
I've been speaking with voters since April, since I announced my candidacy, excuse me, and stormwater is their highest priority, so it is mine also, like Commissioner Donato's. She spoke of the subcommittee she sits on. Should I get elected, I would hope to also sit on that subcommittee and meet with individuals from other elected officials from across the county and network with them and find out what their ideas are and their solutions in their communities. Another idea is we have a lot of smart citizens in this community, some of them in this very room, and that are educated in this subject. We could form a citizen stormwater committee for them to come up with ideas and bring back to the city commission also of how to solve this.
Mr. Eckert?
My highest priority would be the stormwater. It's not going to go away. You look at it this year with all the rain we've been having, it has not alleviated very much on flooding issues locally. Lake Helen's in a kind of a multi-level bowl, so the water kind of accumulates in pockets and causes flooding. We need to control the growth on where the houses are being built so they're not being built in the low-lying areas anymore. And we need to finish going through and getting grants and loans and whatever avenue we need to improve our stormwater projects. And they need to go all the way from the basic beginning of what needs to be done and the end. Everybody keeps on talking about the end results, but there's a lot that needs to be done at the beginning that's not being addressed. And that needs to be taken care of.
Thank you, Mr. Burton.
Could you repeat the question, please?
I will. If elected, what would be your highest priority? And explain it, please.
We're in a small city. We have a very small staff. We have turnover because our staff do not feel that they're respected. Simple. Staff needs to be respected. We're asking more of them than we are paying them for. If we can have a continuity of individuals who know this city backwards and forward, they would be able to give us some directions as both on the city commission and even in their own particular area of expertise. We don't have that expertise that's going to be here a long time. So I'll start with my staff and then we work out from there.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have closing comments, and for those of you who sent in questions that haven't been asked, thank you very much. There are a lot of questions up here, and there just was not time. Please, when this is over, come up and speak with the candidates and ask them whatever question it is that may have happened, you may have submitted that didn't get asked tonight. We have drawn a second time for the closing comments. So the first person to give a closing comment, which is a minute and a half, up to a minute and a half, is Mr. Abshire.
Well, thank you, Ms. Smith, for moderating such a wonderful event, and the League of Women Voters and the Villa, and all of you for coming out. This is the first time I've participated as a candidate in one of these. I've coached other candidates before candidate forums. I've even moderated candidate forums, so this has been new, and thank you all. Over the next couple of weeks heading up into the election, I'm going to continue going door to door, meeting those of you who I have not yet. I look forward to hearing some of your questions that you didn't get to ask tonight. I ask you humbly to elect me on November 4th as your next Lake Helen City Commissioner of Zone 3. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Burton, you are the second closer.
I'm running now. I'm not running to get a job. I'm running to finish the job that I started. When I got here, the city was staff-wise, they were demoralized. We weren't sure whether or not we were going to be able to be in City Hall. We wound up having our grant for our CA was canceled. We had a new city administrator who came in and was able to work out an arrangement where we didn't have $50,000 in our budget, or $150,000 in our budget, but we were able to break it down to three payments. He did that on the fly coming in the door. So we can do better. We just need to elect better.
All right, thank you. Ms. Donato, I believe you're the third closer.
I think so, thank you. I want to thank each of you for coming out tonight too. As I stated in the beginning, this is an important meeting for all voters, for you to get a chance to look at who your elected officials could possibly be in November. Remember that you need to do your research on all candidates. I agree with the mayor. We need to vote smarter, and we need to pick the best people who can actually run a city, knows about budgets, knows about human resources, has a background in wages and workers' comp. issues like that, because we don't have a city manager. If we had a city manager, that would be different. At this point, we don't. Like I said, I have 5 decades, 50 years of being involved in politics. I think I've done very well in bringing money back to this city, money that would have been lost, forgotten about, such as an insurance of $76,000. The roof at City Hall needed to be repaired, and the insurance company said they wouldn't pay for it. I got the policy, looked at it, contacted the representative, and we got that $76 back in our pockets for the city and for the citizens. So I do believe that I am the best choice.
Thank you. And Mr. Eckert, your closing comments, please.
I drew number 4 twice. They asked if I had marked the card, and I says, no, just my fingerprint, so it came back to me. As I've said before, I am a servant to the community. I've been a servant to the country, been a servant to community, been a servant to Lake Helen, and I will continue to serve you as the best I can. During my 5 years as being a commissioner, I've watched projects get kicked down the road constantly, not funded, and I am still pushing to get a lot of those projects funded. We're working on it. We got companies that are looking for grants for us. We got companies that are looking for other revenues to bring in money to get some of these projects done and get them off the board so that we can actually have improvements in Lake Helen. Our water, our stormwater, our roads, everything can be handled, but we have to buy that train ticket first. There was a talk about wait for the train to show up. There's been too many trains that have gone by. We need to buy the ticket to get on the train for it to stop. And that's one thing Lake Helen has not done yet. And that's what I plan on seeing us continue to improve as best we can.
Thank you. Now, a couple of dates that I want to remind everyone of. First of all, if anyone in the room is not registered to vote, or if you have neighbors who are not registered to vote, the deadline is October the 6th. And that's relevant because obviously if you aren't registered, you can't vote. Early voting is going to be October 27th through Halloween, October 31st, and it's 8 to 5, and early voting is at the Supervisor of Elections office. That's at Lisa Lewis's office, which has moved now, and it's, what's the address? 1588 North Woodland Boulevard. So it's in a different location. So if you early vote, make sure you know where you're going. And you have to do it on those dates between the 27th and the 31st. And then of course, what's been mentioned already, voting day is November the 4th, if you have not already voted. And to the other deadline that's relevant is the deadline to get in the vote by mail. If you want a vote by mail ballot, your deadline to request that is October the 23rd. And I will tell you that the ballots will be coming out very soon, correct? Craig, didn't you look, you found out that date?
Yeah, not far behind this.
Yes, that's why we held the forum now, because for those who have requested vote by mail, Lisa Lewis's office will be sending those out very soon, so you'll be able to vote. Please keep that in mind, because that's critical for these 4 wonderful candidates you have. I think you have good choices to make, and I hope you put everything into it to get the people that you want elected to these positions. I want to make a note for you that, as a reminder, that the League of Women Voters of Volusia County and the Lake Helen Villa are nonpartisan organizations. We neither endorse nor do we endorse candidates nor political parties. Our goal is to educate and provide opportunities for the citizens of Volusia County to gather as much information as they can about issues and candidates so the choices they make are informed choices. As I said earlier, we will have this video posted on the League of Women Voters of Volusia County website, which is lwvvc.org, and there will also be a link on the Lake Helen Villa website. Let's give a big round of applause for our candidates. And to each of you for being here tonight. Remember that it is your right to be able to vote, but it is also, and I believe more importantly, it is your responsibility to vote. Not voting should not be an option, but we live in a free country, so it is an option. But you have that responsibility. Please exercise it. Thank you very much. Be safe going home, and thank you for coming.